All right. Hello,
Hello.
English 293 class, American Literary History. Welcome to our mini lesson of Charles W. Chesnutt. I'm Andrea,
And I'm Maggie.
and we want you to take a really good look at this handsome fella on the screen over here. This Caucasian man.
Yeah.
Except false.
He is in fact not Caucasian. His parents, if we can change the slide, thank you. His parents were actually freeborn Black from North Carolina. He was born June 20th, 1858 in Cleveland, Ohio, and his father actually served in the Union Army. So some things you should know about his early life. He went to school, which was established by the Freedmen's Bureau, which was very prevalent during the time of Reconstruction. And he worked as a teacher, school principal, newspaper reporter, and an accountant. And he also married a woman by the name of Susan Perry. He also began work as a legal stenographer and passed the bar exam in 1887.
So he was a very smart man. They did also have 4 kids. And despite his academic career and his excellency in different fields, he was also took part in a lot of literature writing. And part of his career, his literary career really began in 1887 when the Atlantic Monthly newspaper published his first group of short stories called The Gooford Grapevine, which were told in the regional dialect folktale tradition. His dialect stories were also then gathered and published into one little thing called The Conjure Woman. And though he never really concealed his Black identity, in 1999, when he began to write full time, he revealed himself to his readers to being a Black man. He wrote 2 other books called The Wife of His Youth and Other Stories of the Color Line, and he also wrote a biography of Frederick Douglass.
And as you can actually see by the picture we have here in the corner of the screen, a lot of his work is still circulating today, and he's still a really strong part of American literary history.
Very influential, yes.
So as for his personal values and achievements, this is a quote we took from the textbook. During the late 1870s, Chesnutt declared in his journal his intention to move to the North and strike for an entering wedge in the literary world. So he really wanted to establish himself as a voice in American canon, which was a really budding thing and an exciting thing at the time. So he wrote with an emphasis on authenticity in language, customs, and in the setting. And his writing was also very direct in his exploration of not only the history, but also the psychological implications of the racial thinking that was happening during the time in the US.
So he was definitely starting a lot of conversations or joining a lot of those social political conversations as well. Some important issues that he addressed in his writing. So a number of his stories actually dealt with like we were talking about, the psychological and social tensions of light-skinned Blacks attempting to pass as whites, which was very interesting because I feel like this is the first time we really start to talk about that mixture of races. And he often advocated for upwardly mobile light-skinned Blacks to remember and honor their collective pasts. And while also arguing about the absurdity of the illegality of interracial marriage, he also understood that in allowing for that to happen, that there would be a violent response due to that interaction, and it would like really provoke the white Southerners. So it's kind of one of those issues where you want movement, you want progress, but at the same time, you understand the cost of that progress, and it's an important conversation to have because sometimes people just aren't ready for them.
I always wonder if Charles's light skin appearance kind of forced him to look at a lot of issues with more nuance, because he really stood between the line between races where he could pass, but he didn't particularly want to. Awesome. So in this next portion of the presentation, we're going to be talking about some of the readings. This reading in particular, the Gooford, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, Grapevine. And this is about a former slave telling the story of a cursed vineyard plantation. So the main character of this story is Julius McAdoo, a former slave and master storyteller who cannily deployed his art for white auditors struggling to understand the human landscape of the South during Reconstruction. So kind of almost like monetizing that experience and the pain and the struggle, which I thought was really interesting. So the piece was considered a sophisticated and often ironic reworking of the plantation tale tradition that emphasized the cruelty of slavery, the power of its legacy, and the slipperiness of power relations between the races.
The next reading we had to read was called Post Sandy. It was published in 1888. And this is the story about an escaped slave who gets turned into a tree by his wife, sorry, in order for them to be together, because he got in trouble, and instead of fleeing and being chased by hounds and brought back and potentially killed, his wife, who was a conjurer, which is essentially kind of like this witchy person, decides to turn him into a tree so that she can visit him and be with him, and so that they can still be together. Except one day, his tree is chopped down while his wife is away, and he gets sawed up, chopped up, and used for lumber. Sad. So basically, this story talks a lot about how the new owners of former plantations must contend with the complex history of human bondage that has shaped the land and its people. So we see this throughout a lot of Chesnutt's work, where he uses a lot of these really kind of interesting metaphors to kind of address those racial issues and a lot of the tensions and problems that these freed Blacks are now facing in America, and how society is learning to deal with all those problems.
Mm-hmm. And as for the last work that we decided to include in the slideshow, the reading is The Wife of His Youth. And this story actually details the passing man who's throwing a ball to his soon-to-be wife. Sorry for the noise in the background. So like a lot of his work, it affirmed the importance of upwardly mobile light-skinned Blacks remembering and honoring their collective past to make sure that they never forgot like who they were and where they came from, but also like
Do you want to pause this
having progress. Pausing
just because of the noise?
I say we power through.
Okay, sorry.
No, we can speak up a little bit.
Okay.
And also we just included a really cool quote from the actual text, which I will attempt to read. I have no race prejudice, he would say, but we people of mixed blood are ground between the upper and the nether millstone. Our fate lies between absorption of the white race and the extinction in the black. The one doesn't want us yet, but many take us in time. The other would welcome us, but it would be for us a backward step. With malice towards none and charity for all, we must do the best we can for ourselves and those who are to follow us. Self-preservation is the first law of nature.
Yeah. So I find this really interesting because it not only fits in with the other writers of the time, trying to bring social awareness to a lot of the racial issues, tensions in post-Civil War South and post-Civil War America, but it's still a problem that we see today. And these are all still conversations that we're having. So yeah, thank you for listening to our presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope you liked it. Thank you. Where's this? Stop recording.